In 1940, Britain was an isolated island cut off from the European mainland. Its survival relied entirely on a continuous chain of Atlantic supply ships hauling freight across the ocean. Food, oil, steel, aircraft parts, and ammunition all had to be imported. If those convoys stopped, the entire country would have been starved into collapse within a matter of months. The stakes were so high that Winston Churchill later admitted the only thing that truly frightened him during the entire war was the submarine threat hunting those ships. Before the Allies could launch any offensives in Europe, they had to solve the grueling physical math of keeping their supply lines afloat. The German Navy knew exactly how fragile that supply line was. They sent their U-boats out to cut it, and they were so successful that German commanders referred to 1940 and 1941 as the happy time. Submarines rarely hunted alone. Operating in wolf packs, they spotted convoys and immediately radioed positions to call in multiple subs for an ambush. To avoid detection, they surfaced at night. Since Allied sonar only worked underwater, the U-boats were effectively invisible. The resulting arithmetic was brutal. Allied merchant ships were going to the bottom of the Atlantic much faster than shipyards could replace them. You cannot outbuild a deficit like that. To stop the slaughter, the Allies had to intercept the German radio transmissions and strip away their ability to coordinate. German naval communications ran through a cipher machine called Enigma. British codebreakers at Bletchley Park had already cracked the Army and Air Force versions of the machine, but the Navy used stricter operational procedures. Their three-rotor Enigma changed settings more frequently and left far fewer human errors for the codebreakers to exploit, resulting in literally billions of possible combinations. Pure mathematics hit a wall. Without a known starting setting or a fragment of decoded text, the equations had absolutely nothing to grip. The raw material had to be physically stolen. Royal Navy boarding parties plunged into sinking German submarines and seized enemy weather ships, specifically to retrieve Enigma codebooks before they could be destroyed. Each physical capture handed Bletchley Park the exact missing variable. It gave their computing machines a concrete fragment to reverse engineer the rest of the three-rotor cipher. With the code broken, convoy routes were shifted around the wolf packs. The immediate danger receded, giving the Allies a temporary sense of security. Then, in February 1942, Bletchley Park's intelligence feed went completely dark overnight. They could read nothing. Germany had suddenly upgraded its naval communications to a four-rotor machine. That single extra wheel exponentially increased the cipher's complexity. Every known U-boat position on the Allied maps completely vanished. For 10 brutal months, the submarines ranged freely along the American coast and across the Atlantic. Shipping losses skyrocketed to some of the highest levels of the entire war. The initial breakthrough was erased. The math was now significantly harder, and Britain was once again staring down the threat of starvation. Bletchley Park was operating under immense pressure. Failing to read the new code meant losing the Atlantic, which meant losing the war. They fought back using a dual approach. The military risked boarding actions to capture the newly updated naval codebooks, while engineers built vastly improved, faster computing machines called bombs to process the millions of new permutations. By late 1942, that relentless cryptanalytic pressure finally cracked the four-rotor naval Enigma wide open. Defeating the advanced machine proved that the Allied codebreakers possessed the capacity to absorb Germany's highest technological upgrade and still outpace it. The tactical map flipped almost immediately. Allied convoys were once again routed seamlessly through empty stretches of ocean, bypassing the waiting submarines. German commanders, operating under the assumption they were entirely invisible, were suddenly met by heavily armed Allied aircraft that seemed to know exactly where they would surface. Submarine casualties spiked to unsustainable levels. By May 1943, Germany was forced to withdraw its remaining U-boats from the North Atlantic. Securing Britain's lifeline required millions of tons of steel and firepower, but it ultimately relied on an intelligence network that solved an impossible math problem, watched it collapse, and then broke it all over again.